Sorry about this, guys.
I'm good.
This is like my spring training on live stream, so I'm not sure what's happening here. But welcome back to San Diego. I'm going to go ahead and miss all the pleasantries about your drive back to San Diego. But we'll go ahead and jump into that opening day roster. The starting rotation, which looks so different on paper than it was a year ago. But I do want to start off and talking about our media colleague, Bryce Miller. I know the last day of spring training really ended with some very, very, very sad news on Bryce Miller. So I know you were a friend of his. You saw him often. My last conversation was with him actually at Padres spring training. We were talking about SDFC and how he thought this was going to be a very successful, how popular they were going to be in San Diego. So a lot of thoughts to the friends and the colleagues of our friend Bryce Miller.
Yeah, I guess my first thing is just to send my condolences to like the family and the friends. He was like a truly unbelievable person and the kind of guy who like you show up to the ballpark and he wasn't there all the time. He was there maybe like, I don't know, a third of the time, but the days he was there, it was just like better because he was happy and he had something to say. And I don't know, there are a lot of cynics in this industry and he was very clearly not one of them. He's just friendly and legitimately awesome to hang out with. And usually just, I don't know, the world can be big and mean and intimidating sometimes. And he just kind of made you feel good every time you hung out with him. So whether it was in the clubhouse, whether it was afterward, grabbing a beer, it really sucks. Love that guy. Just a truly happy and friendly and wonderful person. And so,
decent human being.
Yeah.
Decent human being and not enough of those in our business. So I really appreciate just the time that I got to know him at Petco Park and elsewhere. All right. Well, listen, AJ, I'm not sure how the season is catching me off guard. It's in 2 days. Opening day is in 2 days. I'm going to start with this. The Padres make the playoffs if what happens?
If their pitching's healthy. And I know their pitching's not healthy right now. I don't think Yu Darvish being hurt is the end of that. I think like 20 starts from Yu Darvish is a healthy season from him. He's turning 39 this summer. They know what they're going to get. They know he's not going to be fully healthy for the whole season. But they have a lot of the right pieces, I think, in place. Like the offense, the top of the offense should be really good. The pitchers they have are really good. It's just a matter of like those guys that they have staying healthy, because I don't know that the depth is there, and maybe it could be there. Maybe some of these guys like Matt Waldron gets back healthy and they build on what they've got. But it's a playoff team. It's a team that can accomplish a lot of things if the pitching stays healthy. And that's such a cliche answer because you can probably say that for 29 other teams in baseball. Right. I guess if it were beyond that, it would be like, do the vibes continue from 2024 or does like the ending linger? Is there a hangover from that? Doesn't seem like there is right now, but I guess that's where I would go secondarily is like, is this team kind of building off the summer of 2024 and putting the ending behind it?
I want to start with Yu Darvish because that's so important. I know Mike Schultz always optimistic, but when he mentioned the word like inflammation, like you never want to hear that with a pitching injury. Was he being optimistic about his prognosis, or is there time? Should we be concerned about Yu Darvish, where he is at this point in his career, and how big a deal to not have him opening day? I know you want him healthy when it matters the most in the postseason, but those innings matter in April and May as well.
Yeah, concern is like what the concern should be for a 38-year-old pitcher with elbow inflammation. Like you should be concerned about that. That's obviously not ideal. From what I've heard, like the Padres think they got out in front of this, and they're pretty optimistic that it's not going to require anything long term. I guess that's just TBD. Like you said, like if they have Yu Darvish healthy down the stretch, they will take that. We will find out. He's obviously a key part of the rotation. He was excellent in the postseason last year. I don't think they're under any illusions they were going to get 33 starts out of him and still have him pitching deep into October after 33 starts. But I mean, it's kind of an inauspicious start, obviously, for what's a pretty crucial campaign because you look at what the state of the rotation past this year and what it would be.
As fun as last year was, especially with the offense and the breakout season that Jackson Merrill has, I still think the most remarkable thing from last season is only using 8 starting pitchers. That doesn't happen in baseball. I think the Padres might more than double that this season. Hopefully not. Hopefully things go well and they get Yu Darvish back sooner rather than later. But man, there's a lot of questions still maintained. Why I thought maybe Stephen Kolek was favored early on to go ahead and win a job, win one of two jobs now. But why Randy Vasquez and Kyle Hart over Kolek?
Yeah, it was a really, I don't think there's like that much separating the three of them. Like Kolek had a pretty good spring in making that transition to the rotation. I think if there was a tiebreaker, if that's what it came down to for that final spot, it was the fact that like they kind of want him to get in that groove of being in a starting rotation. It's kind of tough to just throw him in there right now after spending all last season as a Rule 5 reliever. Like, give him some time to keep that rotation on schedule. They know exactly what they're going to get from Randy Vasquez, which is probably like number 4 or 5 starter kind of stuff. Kyle Hart, I know his numbers weren't necessarily that great. I liked kind of his pitchability and some of the things we saw at the end of spring training. I'm very intrigued to see how it plays. He seems like a guy who it doesn't have that big fastball. His fastball is below average, clearly, but like the rest of his stuff, he has a good changeup, good sweeper, and kind of knows when to use them and knows how to kind of pitch off that fastball, good command. So I guess I see why they made the decision they made. Give Kolek that time to build up. I mean, like I learned very quickly in this job that the opening day rotation is something a lot of people care about and I care about, but within a week or 2 or 3, like usually that next guy is right up. I think the first season I covered the Padres, the big question was like, is it going to be Colin Ray or Robbie Erlin for the last spot? And within the first turn through the rotation, both of them were in the rotation because someone at the front of it had gotten hurt. So I know I said pitching health is the most important thing this season, but I would expect Stephen Kolek to be the first guy called up and probably play a pretty important role on this team.
It changes quickly. I feel like we spend so much time wondering who's the opening day starter. There's so much emphasis into opening day starter, but man, you're exactly right. It shuffles, it rectifies itself sooner rather than later. What do we see right now as the strength of this bullpen as it currently stands? And of course, you have guys that you have to get back. Brian Hoeing is going to be a huge piece for them, eating up some of those innings, especially as you're developing and stretching out Randy Vasquez and Kyle Hart and seeing what they can do. But how do you see this bullpen shaping up?
Yeah, the back end, I think, is going to be really good. Like, I think Jason Adams' stuff is awesome. Robert Suarez pitched yesterday, and we hadn't seen him in like 9 or 10 days, which was, I thought, a little bit concerning. And then apparently he was just getting work on the backfields, and then he came into the game yesterday and blew 98-mile-an-hour fastballs past everyone he faced. So he looks good and ready. And then Jeremiah Estrada, like if those are your 3 guys, and then you have Adrian Morejon to face lefties, who, like, I'm expecting a pretty solid year out of Morejon. I'm expecting him to kind of take that next step because his stuff's there and he now has the experience of having done it, having gotten big outs when the Padres needed them. And so those are kind of your 4 guys. I also like the depth of the bullpen. And so like the starting rotation has question marks for me. The depth of it has question marks. But I know they're going to open the season with a few guys on the IL in the bullpen. None of them are particularly long-term injuries. They're guys that are going to play an impactful role. Sean Reynolds, Brian Hoeing. They're going to like those guys are going to chew up innings, and like it's a good deep bullpen. They can't afford too many injuries to it, but they've taken a few in spring training already, and it still seems like Alec Jacob is their 7th guy right now. Yeah. Alec Jacob's a good pitcher. Alec Jacob has good stuff, and I think he could potentially work his way into a later inning role. So I guess like bullpens are so volatile. You never know what you're going to get with a bullpen. But I just like the makeup of this one, and I like the situations. I like the Ben Fritz and Ruben Niebla, what the spots they put them in. They seem to do a good job setting those guys up for success, and then those guys have that success. So bullpen, I would say, definitely a strength right now.
Those pitchers are going to have pretty much for the most part new battery mates than they had last season with, man, Padres lost some big pieces this offseason. I wasn't expecting when they first traded for him, Kyle Higashioka, to be such a big deal for this Padres team. But man, what a player he turned out to be. And Luis Campusano not making this roster. Of course, he has some options. Are you surprised by that whatsoever based on all the chances the Padres gave him? They've given him over the past couple of years, and he just wasn't able to find he wasn't able to find the consistency offensively or defensively.
Yeah, I guess surprised is maybe not the right word. I guess I could totally see. It was Maldonado versus Campusano, and Campusano clearly has the better bat. Like Maldonado did not hit it all this spring. And it's not like Maldonado's like a great defender. I think he works very well with pitching staffs, but his framing numbers aren't all that great. But the Padres catching depth is just extremely thin right now. And so if Elias Diaz is your starter, and there's things to like with Diaz as the starter. He worked well with the pitching staff. His framing numbers went up last season. I I don't know that Camposano being sent down at the start of spring or at the end of spring training means that he's not going to be part of this. I just think that you keep Maldonado, who had an opt-out in his contract, because neither of those guys really separated themselves and the race was close. And Maldonado's now just the backup catcher who, if he doesn't perform, you have Camposano there ready to come in soon enough. And so if Camposano didn't completely jump out and earn that spot, I think that's kind of what did him in. And like, let's be honest, like none of these catchers did much during the spring. And I think there's being concerned about the offensive production out of the Padres catching spot might be a storyline that's a little bit overblown because they have what they have in the top 6 spots in their lineup. But it's also completely fair to be concerned about it because these guys have not hit at all this spring, and really their numbers in the past, aside from some stretches for Camposano, don't look promising for 2025.
I do know that the Padres are going to be looking for too much production from their bottom of the order. Again, you really want your 1 through 5, your 1 through 6 to go ahead and carry this team offensively. So right now, come a month from now, a couple of weeks from now, if we're talking about, man, what do you do with Maldonado? You got to cut. I don't know that the emphasis for this team should be about the offense they're getting from their catcher.
Yes. I think that's a completely fair point. And I also think that, like, you want to look at the bottom 3 of the lineup, there's question marks there. But those other 2 spots that aren't catcher, the Padres, I think, can legitimately expect some production because they have different pieces they can mix and match. So they can pick the matchups they want. They can go left, right. They can put Iglesias in as needed. Like, there are ways they can get production out of 7 and 8. So you look at the top 6 and say that's pretty darn good. And you look at 7, 8 and say, oh, there's question marks. But if you mix and match and you made the right decisions, they just had to make some decisions in who they kept. If those decisions were the right ones and you mix and match the right way, you can get what you need out of 7 and 8 too. And then, like you said, the 9 spot, the catching spot, you probably shouldn't need that much offensive production out of it.
You would hope not. Okay, going to go quickly to what Mike Schultz had to say yesterday. He did say that deciding the bench spots, the final roster spots, some of the most difficult he's had since he became manager. I think this is what he had to say yesterday when you asked him about the decision to go with Brandon Lockridge.
Does he bring in terms of all the different things that he can do? Obviously playing, but also coming off the bench and doing bags.
Yeah, good for Locke. He's making his first opening day, and he's more than earned it. And what can he do? The one way I've been taught to think about, rosters is how does the player beat the other team? In simple terms. And so the thing about Locke is, he can do it a lot of different ways. He's clearly can run. He's a plus, top of the scale runner. And it's good that he can run, but it's only as good as its application, right? And so he's a really good outfielder. He takes good routes. He can play all 3 outfield positions. You've noticed him a little bit more in the left recently. For obvious reasons. So I'd expect him to get some opportunity, especially against lefties. Can clearly play center, uses the speed on the bunt game, and also when he gets on, he's a fearless base runner. Not only capable of stealing a base, but also just a good base runner in general. So it helps you in a lot of different ways. And then this guy's really had a good, productive offensive spring. Continues to get better. Has a consistently good with his approach, uses the whole field, so he helps us a lot.
Great question, AJ Cassavell, on on Brandon Lockridge. How is it surprising at all to you? He just outperformed the competition.
It's a little bit surprising, but not. Yeah, I think he outperformed the competition and earned his way onto the roster. There are other considerations, obviously, in terms of who has contract options and who they let go from the organization. And so, in that sense, Lockridge having an option and being able to be sent down, I kind of thought maybe they would use that. But if you look at the construction of the roster and who's where and how they're planning to use these guys, they needed a Brandon Lockridge. They needed this defender who can come in late innings, play left field. That's a really, really good defensive outfield right now, late in the game. And I think he's going to start against left-handers, and Chris Sale's starting on opening day. And so Brandon Lockridge is your opening day left fielder, if you line those pieces up. And he earned it in spring training. Now it's just the fact that he could have been sent down and that the Padres had to make other decisions as a result of him as a result of including him, which I think probably would have been unfair to exclude him because he had earned that spot and because he does, like Mike Schultz says, can beat you in a lot of ways. This guy is an elite base stealer.
Okay.
I've talked to him about base stealing too, and he is extremely thoughtful about the process he goes through and understanding each pitcher and like just base stealing, defense, and the fact that he's not going to be starting every game, but he can start certain games that are the right matchups. So to answer your question, a little bit of a surprise just because of the roster considerations, but not at all a surprise based on how he performed in spring training. I think it was the right move. There's some ripple effects to the roster. Maybe we can get into them, but choosing him, like they needed someone to platoon with Jason Hayward in left field. And there were a lot of guys, once they made those 3 decisions on Sunday with the option guys, there were a lot of guys that could have filled that final bench.
Uh-oh. Did we lose AJ Cassavell? Sorry, AJ, are you there? I don't see AJ. Hopefully AJ Cassavell is there. Sorry about that. AJ?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
All right. Yes, I'm so sorry about that. I'm going to have to go ahead and get better Wi-Fi or plug into a...
That one was me.
That was
one
you?
Was me. Yeah, my iPad just died. It was at 20% before this, but I guess being outside, it drained some of the life of it. So I'm ready. Let's talk Brandon Lockridge. Let's keep going.
Okay, let's go ahead and finish with Brandon Lockridge. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, so I'm just kind of like I spent a lot of time thinking about the construction of this bench, and that's kind of just my whole, like the last week is like who fits where, what's the puzzle, and like every other spring training I've ever done, it all just falls right into place at the end of camp. Like it's just like, all right, obviously this guy earned it, or this guy has the options, this guy has to go. And this year it was like 6 guys, and I had no idea who it was going to be, which is part of the reason I wasn't sure it was going to be Lockridge.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, he won the job, and he's, like I said, he fits that role. Then you make up the rest of the bench, and it's the Gavin Sheets, Yuli Gurriel platoon, and the Jason Hayward, Brandon Lockridge platoon, Jose Iglesias as your versatility guy. I think, like, if I'm just like grasping everything, all the decisions the Padres had to make, like the real decision, they needed a righty bat to platoon with Hayward. The real decision was Gurriel versus Eggy Rosario and Tyler Wade, because like you can have that platoon with Iglesias. You can put Iglesias in the infield as your righty bat and have him platoon with I guess with Gavin Sheets, and you can move guys around. So there's the real decision to me when you add it all up is Gurriel against Eggy Rosario, against Tyler Wade, against Oscar Gonzalez, and we will see if that was the right one. I think there's a lot of reasons to like Eggy Rosario. I think he could be good somewhere else. I think the Padres are hopeful he stays in the organization. Mm-hmm. But they have to have nailed that one because and they give him the benefit of the doubt after what they did last year with some of those decisions.
You're right. Preller nailed a lot of the bench pieces from last year, whether it's going to be the Peraltas and the Solanos. It all paid off. But I'm just thinking, when you think about the age factor as well with Gurriel, I'm just thinking what went wrong for the Padres the previous year when they had older, respected veterans in Matt Carpenter and Nelson Cruz, and that backfired very early in the season. Took a while to go ahead and part ways. So I was a little bit surprised. I did not see Gurriel. I saw him sparingly the first week that I was there. How did he look to you? I know we talked about working out with Manny Machado in the offseason in Miami, but how did he look at this point?
Not overmatched. And I think that like Carpenter looked overmatched.
Yeah.
Kind of very, very quickly. Nelson Cruz was, I don't know, it was a while ago. I don't really remember it. But I remember like in spring training seeing Carpenter and like thinking, this might be an issue. Gurriel very well could be toward the end of his career, but like he could be on that downward trajectory, and it could come May, and we're like, well, why did they leave Eggy Rosario off the roster for Gurriel? But I didn't see any of that based on what I saw in spring training. Like he was getting around on 98-mile-an-hour fastballs. He was facing quality pitching. I think the Padres gave him a lot of looks against like major league caliber pitching because they wanted to make sure he still had that. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like I said, like you can give him the benefit of the doubt from last year, or you can question from 2023. We will find out. That's the decision that they had to make, because like we talked about Lockridge, he was kind of the last piece, I guess, based on what we came to find out and how we learned it all. But I really think that was the decision they had to make was Gurriel against the rest of the options.
AJ, we have a question from Gustavo. He wants to know, AJ, who's the other AJ acquiring in this annual trade just before opening day trade? Is that still a thing, or based on what the payroll is right now and the tax issues? Do you think that this roster, man, this is kind of play it out and just see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, there could be a trade because they have a couple guys that would have to go either be DFA'd or whatever. So it could be a minor trade or something. There's also, like, we talked about the catching situation, like maybe some catcher out there becomes available. That's obviously tough because it's a catcher who had worked with. I guess, long way of saying maybe something minor. I think this roster kind of is what it is going into opening day, but I've said that before, so I'm always on my toes in the couple days leading up to opening day.
All right, from Mike on Twitter. Hi, Marty, AJ. Is it the realm of possibility that we see one or both of Salas and DeVries with a big league club this season, or is it a bit too early for them?
I am done saying it's too early for Padres prospects because they promote them so fast and they believe so much in them. Mm-hmm. I think I would be surprised if we saw both of them. And I think given the catching position and all that comes with it and all the nuances and also the importance of having worked with these guys, I think I'd be most surprised if Ethan Salas were here. If Leo DeVries breaks in the minors, and I have every reason to believe he will, I think he's going to be awesome. As like a bench piece or a versatile, I don't know, like a late season, let this guy see if he can hit. Maybe. I'll say less than 50%, but I'm not ruling it out. I think it's possible, and I think the Padres are the type of organization that would be happy to give those guys a chance if they earn it.
I would agree with you on if one or the two come up. It would not shock me if it's DeVries based on what team officials and scouts are saying about his progression versus bringing in Salas and everything that has to go into catching. So wouldn't be shocking. Yeah. AJ, what are you most looking forward to this season?
Just baseball. I'm happy. Marty, this is like one of my favorite days of the year. The first day I'm back in San Diego after spending 6 weeks in Peoria. So, actually, I mean, this year I did get to take 10 days off in the middle of it to come home and see my son. So that was good. But it didn't feel as long this time. But I don't know. I'm just kind of always excited this time of year. Most looking forward to, from a Padres perspective, like Jackson Merrill just comes to mind immediately. Seeing like kind of, I think he's gonna take another step forward, like some of the at bats he's had, and I just think like he has that superstar factor. I think he can elevate into that this season, so it's exciting to kind of see. Like I think back to what Tatis did in 2019. He had that solid rookie season, and then in 2020 he was an MVP candidate. And obviously 2020 season was what it was. It was shortened, but he took that leap from like being like this guy is an awesome rookie to holy moly, this is one of the best players in baseball. I'm excited to see if Jackson Merrill can do that. And like, I'm excited to just see the National League and the way the race unfolds. Like, obviously all the talk has been about the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. It's hard to win in the playoffs. And so you look at like I've talked with some American League people, like that's just kind of a big blob of teams that just feel like high 80 win teams. Like the National League has 6 or 7 contenders and only maybe 4 spots available, maybe 5 if you count the Central champ. And like, I don't know who's going to be left out because I think these are all, like, there are some playoff caliber teams there, some really good players, a lot of teams with flaws. I think the Mets have flaws. I think the Diamondbacks have flaws. The Phillies are getting up there, and like the Padres obviously have their flaws. Like, I'm really just eager to see the way this whole league plays out.
I am too, and I'll tell you this: it's I know Luis Ariz has that really, really contagious personality, and he's such a pleasure to talk to. You love guys like that, but when he talks to that man, just watch out. The hand is fully healthy. He wins a batting title with a busted up hand, and he's healthy, and Manny's healthy, and Tatis is like, I can be the best player when my head is in the right place. I just think that they could be so exciting. You want to temper that because things happen, there's struggles, and you can have early slumps. But I'm just thinking that where Manny Machado is, fully recovered from that surgery, his workout situation, and just how fun that top of the order could be. It could be special, but we'll find out early on, I guess. So
yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing Ariz because he looked awesome in spring. He was hitting everything, and like there's so much debate about his value, and I think like that's kind of fair if you look at like last year's numbers. Like, how valuable is that kind of player? If 310 batting average without much slug and without much defense. Mm-hmm. But like, that's not really who Ariz is. Ariz is better than that. He was hurt last year. That was the hurt version of Ariz, swinging with like without a left thumb. Like, the version of Ariz that I think the Padres can hope for is the guy that hit 350 2
Yeah.
years ago. And that version is like undeniably valuable at the top of your lineup, especially with the way he takes at bats and with the way he's a spark and with the way like guys react to who he is in the clubhouse and just as a personality. And then you look at the thing, I don't think anyone's won 4 straight batting titles since Tony Gwynn. Like, what a story that would be.
It would be.
Like, that is going to be another really exciting thing to watch for this season. So, yeah, he's definitely high on my list of guys I'm excited to watch this year.
And he can do something he's never done before. He can win back-to-back batting titles with the same team.
The same team.
It's just, that is remarkable. I can't imagine something like that, but good for him. And AJ, was spring training your first time dad? So was spring training, you can be honest, was it a vacation for you, kind of getting away from some of the dad duties, or was that kind of difficult to be away?
No,
like
that? It stunk. I like being home with Carlo. It's
Yeah.
But like it was good enough. I got to break it up enough, and then like I got, I guess, busy toward the end, and they came out at the very beginning. You know how the beginning of camp is. It's so
Yes.
slow. It's like everyone's excited for pitchers and catchers, and I get that. Like it's like the first sign of spring, but nothing really happens those first few weeks. So that's when they were out there, and I got to hang out with them and spend some time with them. So I'm just like, you can probably read it in my face right now. I'm just like giddy to be back and like get the season started. Like I think spring training is long and maybe in some ways unnecessarily long, to the point where every single day you're just like, when is that season going to start? When are the games going to count? How many more baseball games do I have to watch without stakes? Like, yes, give me those stakes. Give me that opening day. I'm pumped for it.
I'm looking forward to actually tomorrow will be interesting because I know the Padres are going to have like a little tour at Petco Park of what's new, some of the new food options, which if you're a media member, that's exciting because, where do you go for food? And then of course there's going to be a workout. Opening day should be a lot of fun. And by the way, I am a little bit bummed. No more Tyler Wade because you always gravitate towards personality. He was a very, very fun personality in that clubhouse. Totally. He was a go-to guy. He had things to say. He and Jackson Merrill were BFFs. And he palled around with Tatis. So that's going to, that stuff matters, right?
Totally.
Personalities matter. That's a pretty big deal.
Totally. And I'm hoping, I think the Padres are hoping that he clears waivers and he can stay in the organization because he's a useful player too, like in terms of the versatility he has. I think in making the bench decision this year, like that stuff definitely matters. And I want to say he was probably the last. I know we said the real decision was Eggy versus Gurriel in terms of two righty bats and like what all that means.
Yeah.
I think Tyler Wade was the last decision they had to make. That was the hardest one to part with because of what he means and what he brings. Mm-hmm. And I also think that like he was a perfect player for last year's roster when they didn't pinch hit much. I just think this year with the bottom of the lineup and the way it's looking, they needed more bats to fill those spots, like big bat, because they're going to be maneuvering. And he was just the odd man out, and we'll see if he stays in the organization. I know some people are hopeful that he will.
Okay, good deal. AJ, I look forward to seeing you at Petco Park, if not tomorrow, then on Thursday. And for those of you guys who don't know, I have sat next to AJ Cassavell in that press box. How long have you been covering the Padres? 10 years? Is this year 10?
10. This is my 10th season. I filled in for Corey.
Yes.
Corey Brock was doing it a few times. So this is really my 14th season covering the Padres, but my 10th season on the beat. Well,
I want to thank you for putting up with me sitting next to you all these years. Very, very gracious of you. So I know I'm that annoying person. I talk and talk and talk while you're trying to get your work done. So AJ, thank you for that. And thank you for your time. Really enjoyed it.
Of course.
Look forward to doing it again next week.
Let's do it.
All right. Tell Carlo I said hello.
Will do. Thanks, Marty.
Thanks, AJ. Thanks, everybody. That was awesome. AJ Cassavell from MLB.com. We'll talk to you guys soon. I will be at Petco Park tomorrow. Check out all the new things at Petco Park. And I think Eric Grupner will speak to the media. And I do want to ask you on behalf of a lot of fans who I've heard from, why are the Padres getting rid of their walking of their concessionaires? I mean, I know they're going to have mobile ordering, but now you won't have people selling you beer and popcorn and Cracker Jacks in the aisles, which is going to be a curious thing because people want the convenience of snacks in their seats, and mobile ordering get pretty clogged and kind of messy. So hopefully we'll have some answers from Eric Grupner tomorrow, and then of course opening day. I know the Padres' new chairman John Seiler sent a letter out to a lot of season ticket holders and fans saying that he will be there on opening day. So hopefully we will actually have a full interview with John Seiler. But thank you for watching Marty Time TV. I'll be back tomorrow and, of course, Thursday. Have a great day.